The men's basketball team hosts Ohio State on Thursday at 6 p.m. in a game televised by ESPN. Head coach Greg Gard is here. We'll have some opening comments and take questions.
Okay, obviously, a lot of you guys I just talked to about 10 hours ago, it seemed like, but still going through the game film and breaking that down, and I take my time going through it and rewind a lot of things. But so far, through most of the first half, obviously it's evident on paper in stat line what Khalil Iverson did and the spark he gave us and how he was able to help us. But, Vito as well, coming off an injury and not practicing for a couple days and then having to adjust to not starting for the first time all year. I thought he handled that exceptionally well. And then just to be able to grind it out. It wasn't pretty in the fashion you would like to close a game out. But on the road, I understand, having been in this league for a long time, that we don't get style points. We're not swimming and diving, and we're not gymnastics, that you find a way to get it done. And you, whatever it takes to close a game out. I thought we were pretty good from an offensive standpoint in the first half. We really have emphasized trying to minimize turnovers, to be able to do that and turn the ball over only 3 times in the first half, and then have some miscues in the second half where we turned it over 9 times. As I told the team after the game, I think what it showed me, the tale of 2 halves, just that stat alone, that you're very capable of minimizing this a lot more than what we have. So we've got to continue as we grow here and continue to get better, try to play more of a complete game from that standpoint, and that will help us become more efficient offensively. And but to be able to get the free throw line 20 times the second half, be able to close it out there was good, and be able to handle that through foul trouble and a juggle lineup at times, I thought was good. So with that, I'll take any questions. You asked them all last night, so you don't have any today?
John.
Before last night's game, Khalil had a stretch of single-digit minutes, minutes. Has he earned more playing time, or do you expect to see more of the double-digit minutes moving forward?
Well, I always go based on what I see in practice, and I never said anything before the game, but leading up to the game for the 3 or 4 days in between, Khalil had practiced really well, both on the scout team and when I brought him over with our group on my side of the floor. So from that standpoint, I'm probably looking back not surprised that he played that well, because he had prepared pretty well. And I think that's always the thing with younger guys, that they can improve. And I always say, when you put value into practice, practice will put value into you. And I think he did that. He did a good job of emulating. I think he was playing Kendrick Nunn at some points on the scout team, and then I'd bring him over for a while with me, and then he'd go back over. So he didn't get caught up in whether he wore a white jersey or a red jersey based on the scout team or being over with us in red, that he just kept trying to do the best he could for the team he was on. So from that standpoint, I thought he approached it the right way, and thus, he practiced pretty well, so he made the most of his opportunities. So in terms of going forward, a lot of that is based on lineups and matchups, and I knew going into last night we would have to play smaller than normal, with Malcolm Hill being more of a perimeter player playing at the 4. I wanted to match Nigel or Khalil with him as much as possible, so that somewhat was dictated based on what I saw on film and what gave us the best chance defensively, and then obviously Vito's injury thrown on top of that made my decision a little easier.
Greg, what kind of identity do you think your team has forged since you took over?
Well, I think we've gotten better defensively. I think we've developed a toughness to us. I think we've gotten calloused a little bit, and we can handle some adverse situations better than we could 6-8 weeks ago. I think we're starting to get a better understanding of who we are offensively and what we need to do, and in a large part that is get to the free throw line and play in the paint. We don't have a plethora of experienced three-point shooters, but this team has strengths that are developing in other areas. I think Khalil, for example, his driving layup, who I just finished watching 2 or 3 times on how he read the angle in the first half, was exactly right out of the drill we've been doing with our drive to score drill. So they are starting to, as we as a staff pick out things that we feel are their strengths and implement those in practice and try to accentuate those, they're starting to correlate that between practice and game and when to execute and how to execute, and developing confidence. I think that's the biggest thing. This group has really grown, as I've talked about, with the culture and the closeness of the group, the cohesiveness. this group has really come together tighter off the floor as well.
Right, Ben?
Illinois didn't follow much in the first half. Was it just a matter of you guys were driving harder to the basket in the second half?
Well, I kept asking the officials, aren't we getting fouled somewhere, somehow? But no, I think we didn't. Number one, I thought early we took too many perimeter shots, especially the first 5 minutes before the first media timeout. Then we got a little better with throwing the ball back inside, and we needed to finish a little bit better. I thought they were more physical with Ethan than we had seen in the past. And him getting 2 fouls and getting out of sync kind of changed our dynamic too. It also changed with our lineup with playing Nigel more at the 4, changed our, with 3 guards, we're not as post-oriented. But I thought we did a better job of, once we started to recognize how they were going to play the team or the person in the post, whether it's a double team or a hard help, we moved the ball a little bit better on the perimeter and were able to attack. Khalil got one of those, as I mentioned before, with the drive on the left lane line. So second half of that, we were a little bit better. We were a little more physical, more aggressive, going towards the rim, and then we were able to drive through some of the contact, and especially some cuts. We cut harder in the second half, drew some fouls off the ball. So just the nice thing I liked about that is we didn't get discouraged. As many free throws as we've shot, and I knew we weren't going to stay at that 36, 37 pace because it's just that's an extraordinarily high number. But to not shoot any in the first half, fortunately our guys stayed true to who we are and didn't get discouraged, and were able to get there more in the second half.
Jim?
Greg, I think you were in here before when Barry was asked about you and the future, and everybody wants to know big picture stuff. Has it, for you personally, has it been relatively easy to just kind of stay in the moment and avoid thinking about all that stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, because that's how I would operate no matter what, whether I have a 3-month contract or a 10-year contract. During the season, as a coach, you bunker down and you just focus on the next day. I mean, I just finished writing today's practice plan that we'll go through, and then I'll finish the game from last night. We'll do our teaching clips tomorrow. We're going to shift our schedule a little bit and do another developmental day because I think that's really helped us with our younger guys this afternoon. And then tonight, I'll lock in on Ohio State. Having watched them, we've had common opponents a little bit with Illinois and Indiana here recently, so I've seen them and I know their personnel pretty well, having watched a lot of those guys in high school. They're a young team that's growing through some things as well and have improved. But for me, it's just about the next day and the next game, and that's what I can focus on because that's the most important thing right now for this team is for us to focus on what's next.
Hey, Greg, I want to ask you about your assistants. Has the job of the of your assistant coaches, has your perspective on the kind of job they do, has that changed since you took over as head coach? And then, and conversely, now that you have Howard Moore in your staff, who has had head coaching experience, how has that come into play? How has that helped you in certain situations over these last 5-6 weeks?
Well, I think Howard brings a wealth of experience from a standpoint of being a student athlete here, a former student athlete here, an assistant coach here, and as you mentioned, a head coach at UIC. He brings back a lot of experience from not only his time here, but his time watching us from afar. So he understands how we operate day in and day out. But he's also been really good about being suggestive but not being overbearing in terms of when he does offer suggestions or things to think about. That's usually how he phrases it. Here, Coach, here's something to think about. And there's been times when I've said, okay, I thought about it enough, I'm not going to do that. Or I've said, you know what, there's something he came into my office this morning with and that he had seen, and he had saw he's close with Stan Van Gundy. Obviously I haven't played for him and been around him quite a bit, something that he did in practice to try to help our younger guys assimilate things a little faster. So I looked at that, and I'll chew on that for a while and see if I want to implement it in practice. But they've all done a very good job of staying within their roles and being suggestive, but not being overbearing. And I give them an open forum and before the game, halftime. We're always watching for fatigue and substitutions, so in case I miss something with body language or facial expression to try to get somebody needs a break. They're helpful with that, and they'll, here and there, they'll throw out things to think about, and some things we've gone right away, and other things haven't maybe aligned with where I was thinking, and I said, no, we're not going to do that right now. So that relationship and that give and take has always been good. But Howard has added, to be able to have, as I mentioned before, to be able to add somebody of his experience and his quality in late December, was truly a huge addition for this program going forward. And obviously he's made a big impact already with not only our staff but with our players, and very appreciative for obviously him giving up his media journey and be able to join us back here.
Andy.
Greg, you've had a lot of quality guards come through here during your time. Where's Khalil fit in terms of athleticism? He seems to have a lot of things that he can do that kind of jump off the page at you. Is he your top guy? Where does he fit, do you think?
Well, I don't know on a numbers thing. I'd have to, we can compare him with some of the better athletes that have played here number-wise, what he does in the weight room and vertical jump and things like that. I think with Khalil, he's starting to continually figure out how he can play the game and keep it simple. I think sometimes young players come in and think they have to make a big splash by the number of points they score, the number of rebounds they get, that it has to be a statistical splash. And when younger guys figure out that I can make an impact by doing a lot of little things, diving on the floor, taking a charge, being the first to help a teammate get off the floor, being solid defensively, just that simple knock of a pass last night that he stole and jumped in between Malcolm Hill and whoever it came from on the wing and knocked it loose and took it to the other end. That was a spark. It's only 2 points, but we were kind of in a little bit of a rut there offensively, and that got us going a little bit. And then his ability to move along the baseline, he got clean for 2 of those dunks in behind the defense there. So just little things like that obviously his stat line jumps out last night, but we've had other guys, as I mentioned, Aaron Maish. You'll look across the stat and it'll say zeros until you hit the minutes, but the how he's been able to fill his role, I think, is really helped this team. But getting back to your question about Khalil, I mean, athletically, yes, looks the part, is the part, jumps off the charts and he looks like an NFL wide receiver. When I watched him in high school, looked like Chris Chambers looked. That's what Henry Mason told me when he was in high school, just long arms and built and runs and jumps, but has to figure out and continue to evolve in the skill set and also the intellectual part of the game. And that's where I think we're starting to see some of that growth.